Right, welcome everybody to our next session of Attitude is Everything, where I'm interviewing real business owners that just basically have decided not to, they refuse to give in, right, during this pandemic, during the lockdown and all the challenges that are thrown at us, and, in most cases actually thriving. So in this session, I welcome Brian Wakefield, of the founder basically and owner of BBN Networking Group. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Dean.
How's things?
Yeah, marvellous, always marvellous. Some days more marvellous than others, of course, but
that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, so loads to do.
Brilliant. So, I mean, just for the sake of everybody listening, could you just give a quick intro into yourself and what BBN does, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm Brian Wakefield, as you rightly said, founder and owner of BBN Networking Group. So BBN is a series of fortnightly business breakfast meetings with 3 venues. So we run at Dartford Football Ground, K Sports at Maidstone, Aylesford, and up at Buckmore Park, which is the Medway group. So 3 groups: Medway, Dartford, Maidstone.
Cool. And what sort of businesses do you attract there usually, Brian?
Good question. I would say pretty much every type of business that you can imagine. A lot of us are well versed at networking meetings, so you know the type of people that you get there. So the range and the width and breadth of businesses that we have is very, very broad. So you can from kind of one-man bands, social media people, tradespeople, we have banks, insurance companies, solicitors, accountants, website designers, developers, you name it, it's there basically. So very broad.
So like myself, you'll see you're in regular contact with a lot of different businesses, a lot of different sizes. You're seeing a lot of different reactions to this whole point, right? Which is one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you about this and interview you. So thank you for joining today. So, a question I'm asking loads of people, right, is, or everybody that's on this, and I'm really interested in the very varied answers that people are giving, but when was it that you first realised that actually this is quite a big deal? Now, given the business that you run and that you own, and the businesses that you work with, what was the first indication for you, and what did you do about it?
I think obviously the warning signs were there sort of early March, and people were getting a little bit twitchy about it. I think it was then probably the 24th of March, something like that the government announced we were in lockdown. Pretty much everything is closing overnight, and I mean everything, as we all know. So yeah, that came as a bit of took a while to think, geez, what does that mean? And as you say, with running basically networking events with breakfast, we're talking 50 businesses at each event. And I think the signs were there at the Dartford meeting on the 22nd, 23rd of March was the very last one that we ran. And of course, in the week or so leading up to that, there's emails galore coming in that unfortunately I can't attend next week, this reason, that reason. It was all COVID related. So normally, as I say, we have kind of 50 people with a waiting list of people to go to if you do get the odd cancellation. I think we ran that meeting with 25. Right. So it was literally half. There was 3 new people there. And it was a bit strange. They thought it was brilliant, but it was the beginning for me, because I'm used to seeing 50 odd people in that room. We're in the same room and there's 25. It just seemed a little bit surreal and a little bit empty, although everybody else thought it was great. But I guess you have a thing that you get used to. So yeah, that was it. And then literally, bang, the lights got switched off and you cannot do this anymore. So
yeah, exactly.
Business from there that all of a sudden isn't there.
Yeah, so I mean, so something I want to explore a bit later on is talking about the businesses that you talk to and work with at your networking events. But first of all, when we look at BBN and look at you and say, right, all of a sudden, I've got some clients where literally their business stopped overnight as well, and they had to, they went through a whole mix of emotions, and we've all been through it, right? So you know, I've said on a couple of these other interviews, you know, I've seen people go into denial, you know, and then they get quite angry and bitter about what's going on, right? And then they turn into, you know, then it goes a bit panicky and chaos. And it's those ones that can go through that cycle or be helped through those cycles to then come out the other side and say, you know what, and these are the guys that I'm talking to on these interviews that say, you know what, it doesn't matter what gets thrown at me, I'm not giving up, I'm pushing on, I'm going to move forward. So can you relate personally to that cycle, or did you not go through that and go through something else? How did it work for you?
No, you're right, Dean. I think for a short period of time, I kind of sat there looking at the ceiling, thinking my business is running large-scale events on a very regular basis, sort of 6, 7, 8 a month, and all of a sudden there are 0 events. What on earth am I going to do? So a couple of people mentioned, oh, you should do it on Zoom. Beginning of March was, oh, I've heard of that. I've barely heard of Zoom. So, okay, it's easy to say it's not what we do, it's not what we're about. I'm very old, I can't do technology of any way, shape or form. But you have to, because what's the choice? What's the option? You just kind of, you know, curl up and disappear. That's just really not an option. So you just have to kind of, if you can't do something, you need to learn how to do it. You need to pivot, don't you? So
Yeah.
I spent a few days kind of researching Zoom and how it worked and how we could adapt that to BBN, and not just a networking meeting, but the format and atmosphere and vibe that we like to create and generate within. So how can we do that? We ran a couple of little dummy ones for sort of 5, 6 people. You know, one of the old sayings is, if you're going to mess up in the training room, you know, not in the real room. So that's fine. So for 5 or 6 trusted allies, we kind of had a run through really. And Crumbs, yeah, I can't see you. Oh, you need to switch your video on, and oh, you need to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Possibly the most overused saying since March, isn't it?
Yeah.
You unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Can
you hear me? Can you hear me? It's that, isn't it? Right.
All of that, yeah. And you just, well, you hear it now, and you know, it does put a smile on everybody's face, because and it was, yeah, even on times, you know, is there a good time? Do people want to kind of lay in now and, you know, start their day at 11 o'clock? Should you do it in the evenings? But the consensus of opinion was, we are business breakfast meetings and we should pretty much keep it at that. And we kept the dates exactly as the dates of the normal meetings would be.
Right.
So we kept everything as real and as normal as we possibly could. And we learnt together. And I think, you know, the first couple was sort of suck it and see, trial and error. And now they're as well an oiled machine as you would ever care to come across, Dean, I should think. So
that's it. Yeah.
Lots of practice.
So, you know, it's quite interesting because you said, you know, you check out this Zoom thing, right? And, you know, Zoom's something that I've used for quite a few years. So that part of it for me was not a big transition. But something I've heard a lot of is people saying, well, you know, there's, you know, like basically, like you said, this Zoom thing, this Skype thing, this Teams thing, you know, these were things that people hadn't heard of before. And it was, you know, and it's tech. And I hear these people, and it amazes me. I still hear business owners now going, oh, I don't do tech. You know, and people have heard me say before, my 93-year-old nan uses FaceTime because of COVID, right? She ordered we ordered an iPhone for her. She's learned how to use it, and she rings the kids. She rings the grandkids, or great grandkids, and stuff like that, right? So if she can use it, anyone can use it, right? And I just can't put up with that excuse. So, you know, what made you not think? Because a lot of businesses have gone into a little bit of hibernation. I massively said going against that, you know, right at the start of this. But, you know, what made you say, you know what, we're a networking group. We're not going to, it might have been an easy option in the short term just to say, you know what, we're going to put it all on hold, guys. And we're going to restart again in a few weeks' time, because none of us knew how big this was going to be. So what was the deciding factor for you to say, you know what, actually, I am going to learn about Zoom. I am going to find out the best way of doing it. I am going to practice with some trusted attendees, and then we're going to make it a slick operation. What made you make that decision?
Do you know what? That's a great question, Dean, and I can answer that easily. It was the members. Quite simply, was that it wasn't a case of me going to people and saying, do you know what, we're going to do this, I need you to be there. It was completely the opposite of that. There were so many people calling me, emailing me and say, right, it's a great group, we love meeting each other every 2 weeks, we're going to miss it, it's going to leave a hole, we need to be able to get together, meet up, help, support, refer, etc. So it was, if I'm honest, it was the members saying, we need you to do this for us. That was the key, that was the deciding factor. And I thought, how can you say no? If people want something, you need to deliver it, I think.
Yeah, and ultimately, the reason you do everything is because of the benefit to your clients, right? To the guys who come to the networking event. So if they've got no networking to go to, then they've got a massive hole in their lead generation, their marketing stream, their sales, and all of that side of it. So if you decide to say, actually, we're going into hibernation, you're leaving. You're looking, like you said, you're getting about 50 clients, 50 attendees to every meeting, right? So that's 150 businesses every week at least, or every other week at least, that have now got a massive hole in their marketing and lead gen stream. So it was pretty much quite a lot of pressure for you to get it back on the road, right?
Yeah, it was in a nice way. It was, you feel a bit of a responsibility. I feel like everyone's dad to a point at the moment, and I think it's down to me to lead the way and show them the light, really. And as you say, across the 3 groups, we've got just shy of 200 businesses involved with BBN. That's a lot of businesses and a lot of business. Lot of money, and it's to them, and a lot of it is their mental health as well. Dean, it's not just from a business point of view. Some people are saying they work on their own, or they work in the same 4 walls. Their kind of interaction with people can be quite limited.
Yep.
So I look forward to this. This is the only time pretty much I get to sit and talk and connect and interact with people. So I found that quite a big responsibility, and one that I just needed to step up to, basically.
Yeah, and you've certainly stepped up to it, right? So, can you just explain, like, what sort of challenges did you face to get all of this, this well-oiled machine face to face to a well-oiled machine online, and were there some, what challenges personally did you face on that first, I guess, and what did you do to overcome them?
I think you touched on it earlier. There's a fair few of them that said, my head's spinning, I don't know what I'm doing, I've taken a step back from the business, I don't want to do anything at the moment. And then you get another kind of portion of people that say, oh no, I'm not comfortable on that, it's the technology, I can't kind of get into it, or people that just are scared to talk to you about it at all because they just think it's something new. I can't or don't want to get my head around it. So again, the responsibility with me was that for the first kind of couple of months or so, I made sure that the people that weren't there, I spoke to them all and made contact with them and just said, what is it that's stopping you from coming? The furlough thing was an element with some people, and they were saying, well, look, I'm furloughed. I desperately want to come because it's about relationships and stuff, but I'm not allowed to talk about the business. So I said, well, that's fine. Don't then. You don't need to talk about the business. It's relationship. So, we had a couple of people that got round that quite cleverly, and other people were just fine. They were, okay, well, if you're happy to have me there, well, of course we are. Well, I want to be there. I want to hear everybody's stories. I can help, support, give advice. And just be there and support your fellow members. So that was quite a lot of work to actually make sure that I spoke to everybody, made sure they were happy, comfortable with it. Was there anything I could do or the group could do to kind of help them and just ease them gently into the kind of habit and the new routine of it, really.
So I think what you've touched on there is absolutely key, right? And that's the difference from my point of view to you, to BBN, to other networking groups, right? Because you genuinely give a shit, right? you know, and like you said, you feel a bit like a father to some of the businesses or to all the businesses because you feel responsible to them, you know, and that comes across in the meetings. It comes across from your members. You know, when people talk about BBN, it's like a sense of belonging. There's a lot of other networking events that happen. We're not going to talk about other names of them, but you know, there's a lot of events that happen, and it's a process. You know, and it either works for people or it doesn't. There's not necessarily this family feeling and this real look after everybody feeling. So how have you created that online? Because I know you had it in your face-to-face, but how have you, I know you said, you know, you called people up and you spoke to them. So that's obviously inclusive and really supportive in that. But how have you made everybody else still feel that online?
Interesting. I wanted to, with the Zoom meetings, I wanted to make sure they were as close as they possibly could be to the real meeting. And some of it's just little things. You and I both know there's lots of Zoom meetings that you join, and you kind of go on and it's your screen's whirring round. Please wait, the host will admit you shortly, etc. And I've heard stories of people sitting there for 20 minutes waiting to be let in, or they were put in a waiting room and people didn't know how to get them out, so they were kind of stuck there and things. So I thought, I don't want that to happen. You know, what happens when we start the normal meeting? Some people might arrive 15 minutes early. Well, the doors aren't locked. They can go in, they can sit down, they can help themselves to a coffee, they can start chatting. It's exactly the same on the Zoom meeting. You know, if I said, look, let's 4 or 5 of us, let's have a drink, let's meet at the pub about 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Now, I'm not going to say to you guys, can you wait outside in the street until I get there?
Good point. Yeah, it's a good point.
You know, and so okay, if you're there early, you go in and you get a drink and start chatting, don't you? It's exactly the same with here. The meetings are set so that if you're invited, you can jump on. There are people jumping on 15, 20 minutes early, and I get on and there's already 4 or 5 people having a chat. So they're allowed to come into the room first. It's a bit like the Waltons at first, you know, morning Dean, morning John Boy, morning Annabelle, morning John Boy. So we get that bit out of the way for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Something we do is random breakout rooms. I think more and more people are starting to do that. They perhaps do it in the kind of power team and maybe put trades together or groups. But, you know, I have an accountant that says he couldn't think of anything worse than to be in a room with a bunch of other accountants. So, he says it in the right way, but I kind of get what he means. So we kind of let the computer generate it, and we'll put people into breakout rooms of kind of 3 or 4 people to have a 20-minute chat. And one of the things that's come out of it is people have said, in many ways, I prefer the Zoom because you can get in the habit. It's people that you see every 2 weeks. You walk in, you say morning, give them a wave, but you sit in your chair or you sit with the people you sit with. And the amount of people that have said to me, I've had a chat with this person, that person, fantastic, never would have done that before, because they were thrown together in a random breakout room. I didn't know they did that. They didn't know I did this. We're now working on a project. So it's, it's just something a little different and welcoming and friendly. I think that's the difference. You hear a lot of people refer to it as my BBN family. And it's really nice when you see that on social media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because family you can rely on and depend on.
Exactly. There's a lot, right? So you know, how is that? You talked about it there, about some people said that actually some people prefer it because it's getting them to speak to more people at times. You know, we're humans, we need interaction, we need face-to-face at some time. We all need a hand around us. You know, everybody needs a hug, we need a handshake, we need that kind of stuff, right? We're humans, it's just the way it is, right? But having said that, you know, I am seeing certain businesses and some of my clients and things like that are actually coming out of this with more than their original business, because they've either pivoted or adapted and done those things. And actually now they're going to have 2, maybe 3 businesses that are working in conjunction with each other or totally separately, but they're still going to be successful. So what's your view on where you would take BB8? Is it too early to tell, or do you think you'd probably keep a mix of virtual and face-to-face once we really start to come out of this? Are you going to flip all the way back to face-to-face and drop the virtual? What's your thoughts on that?
At the end of the day, it will be what the network and its members want. At this moment in time, there's probably maybe 70% of them that are chomping at the bit and absolutely gagging to get back to face-to-face meetings, and there's maybe roughly 30% of people that are either I don't mind or I actually prefer it like this.
Right.
You just need to look at the reasons why they prefer it. I think that's the thing. Is it a kind of worry point of view, from a health point of view, or is it because it's just more convenient, or they can kind of, the feeling of being able to jump on meetings all around the world, which for the way that we work probably isn't necessarily a plus. So it's really partly what they want, Dean, and also what we're able to do. So and it changes so quickly, doesn't it? So 2 weeks ago, I was having a conversation with one of the venues that it's not a problem. We're working on coming back in September. There's certain things we need to do, but shouldn't be a problem. And then last weekend, with the kind of wedding thing and the receptions were going to happen, and then it was all cancelled. So we took a bit of a step back. So ask me 2 weeks ago, we would have been back in September. Ask me now, I don't think we will be. So it's a case of rolling with the punches a little bit and just adapting as we go. So I think we'll have a transitional period. Yep. So when we do get back, got to bear in mind that not everybody will be able to come back, but that's partly because we may be limited on numbers. So, if we've got 60 or 70 people in each group and only 35 of them are allowed in, then that's a dilemma. So, so to answer your question about the mix, yes, there'll be a transitional period where probably until the end of the year, that we'll have the fortnightly meetings, and then we'll probably have a monthly Zoom to back that up for the people that can't or won't get into the face-to-faces. So, yeah, it'll be a mixture, I think, initially.
Well, like you rightly said, right, we've got to stay fluid in our plans. We've got to keep our options open, because none of us know what this new normal is going to look like, when it's going to come around, what that normal is. We've been in this for months already. Well, it feels like years, but months already. I'm assuming, talk to me a little bit about the performance of what's happening between your members at the moment. I know there was a lot of business passed in face-to-face. How has that changed? Did it dip? Did it spike? Did it, is it returned to its normal? Where's the performance on the amount of business that's being passed around the virtual room?
That is definitely been on the increase. I think for the first couple of meetings, maybe, excuse me, at each venue, there was that novelty factor to it. I think that I can see me and I can see you on the screen. You get past that. You look taller in real life and all that kind of stuff. So you kind of get that out of the way. And I think people sort of struggled a little bit with the technology, but like anything, it's use it or lose it, and practice makes perfect. And the more you do it, just the better you get at it. People are used to the format now. So I think initially it was just, isn't it terrible? I'm working from home and we've got kids running across the desk and cats dropping out of the sky and goodness knows what else. You've got all that to contend with.
Yeah.
People are a lot more used to that now. So, and it's kind of, after a couple of 3 months, it was business as usual, really. We've got to get back to, okay, what are you up to? What can you do? What have you got? So, the business is definitely been on the increase.
Great to hear. Great to hear. So we, I know from talking to you before and stuff that you live what you do, right? So yes, you've got 200 members. They're your prime, concentrated focus and everything. But I also know that you speak to hundreds of other business owners, right? Outside of your networking, it's what you do, you live it. So what's your general feel around various industries, you know, not being specific about any type of category in that, but what's your general feel amongst business owners right now? Is it one of a little bit of worry, a bit of concern? Is it optimism? Is it pessimism? Where do you feel that the business world is going at the moment?
I think it's a great mix of all of that, really, dependent on who you speak to, type of person, type of industry. I think a lot of the digital people involved in digital, whether it's SEO stuff or whether it's website creation and all of that, they're all doing really, really well, because obviously people are having to push their efforts more online at the moment. So things in and around the digital market, they're all talking great things and seeing great things coming, I think. You get certain businesses that are relatively unaffected. Accountants, perhaps. They've still got the tax returns to do and figures to file and all that sort of stuff. Solicitors, I think, to a degree, their amount of work has stayed the same. And to a degree, a lot of them have got busier. So, some of the tradespeople, some of the heating and plumbing people, electricians, they can't cope. They're busier than ever. I think there was an element of people starting to work from home, which I think should and will continue. And then all of a sudden you start hearing strange noises that you don't hear because you're not normally there in the day, and or you spot leaks and things like that. So a lot of those guys have been a lot busier. Yeah, I think it's unknown, Dean. You just don't know. I think there's some challenges to come, maybe later on in the year, early part of next year. So, without getting too deep into some of the facts and figures of it, but, with some of the kind of loans and deferring of stuff, people need to be aware of that. So if you've deferred tax or corporation tax and things like that, you've deferred it until January. Well, are you prepared that you're going to then have 3 lots of tax to pay in a 3 or 4 month period?
Yeah.
So it's not free money, is it? It's got to be paid back.
Deferred. It's not gifted, right? And that's
exactly that.
Some of these grants are going to start to run out, and if it was put into a bad business in the first place, or an unhealthy business, then that grant hasn't made it healthy. It's just put it off a bit. And I think you're right. It's down to the individual. It's down to the business. Down to the individual business owner. I'm seeing a massive mix of what people are doing. But like these Attitude Is Everything series are showing, there's the resilience of business owners is phenomenal. The opportunity out there, the money's still in the country, right? There's as much money out there, if not more, than before. The opportunities are still there. It's very, very far from doom and gloom. I know my clients are performing better now than they were. They've continued, they've adapted, they've changed, they've done whatever is necessary to not only survive, but to keep going. So, talking of that, about the mindset and stuff, what have you learned about yourself during this period, other than you can sit in 4 walls longer than you probably thought you could do? But what have you learned about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, and somebody asked me this the other day, is that my working day per se hasn't actually changed that much, because my office, well, you can see it here on screen, but this is actually a converted garage attached to the side of my house. So that's the BBN head office, if you like, European headquarters. And so that's not changed for me. I kind of, out of bed and walk through the house, through the kitchen, through the utility room, lock myself away in the office, and that's what I do, whether there's COVID or no COVID. So that kind of hasn't changed in that respect. Obviously, what has changed is the 6 or 8 times a month getting up halfway through the night and driving to a venue somewhere. Yep. So yeah, that's not changed. I think to try and be even more helpful and supportive of people, and understand that people are in way different situations, you still get plenty that feel that their situation is the worst ever, and nobody is as bad as theirs. But I think you learn to accept that and just help them manage that a little bit, really. So yeah, I've tried to probably learn a little bit more patience with people, really. That's the biggest thing, and just try and flip the whole thing round, is to just make sure that if they're okay, and try and convince them that, well, it's more from the support point of view, whereas in networking, I think in years gone by, the emphasis has always been on walk into the room, what can I sell to who, what can I get out of this. It's really, I guess, my ability to help people look at it in a different way and say it's the giver's gain thing, really, is that, look, you know, you need to be there. Just because you think you're not doing very much and you can't sell anything to people, you need to be there regularly, not only from your own kind of a sanity point of view. It will do you good to keep in a routine of every 2 weeks being there, the interaction, the banter, stuff like that. You will leave that meeting in a better state of mind than when you approached, and just the support of the group. You know, you need to also be there because other people are going through what you're going through, so they want to see you. So, you know, try and be there to help and support the whole group, and stronger together, isn't it? All stay together, help each other, be aware, and then it's a better place, I think.
Brilliant. And you're certainly proving that the business model is adaptable, right? It can adapt, it can change at very quick notice. There's no doubts that if this COVID goes on, then you just carry on as you're going, and you're going to be a very healthy network still, and your members are going to continue to benefit. So, I mean, look, on that note, I really appreciate your time, Brian. It's been awesome to talk to you and to understand where BBN's coming from, but also from where, your experience of dealing with your members and other businesses as well. So, I know firsthand and from some of my clients as well, the benefits they get from being part of BBN. So what would somebody do if a business owner's watching this and thinks, you know what, I need a little bit of BBN in my life, a bit of BBN family, what would they do?
As I should, Dean. I think in the first instance is take a look at bbnetworking.co.uk. Have a browse of that. That will give people a bit of a feel for where we're at and when we're at, and what the format is, how it works, and then basically give me a call and we'll have a chat. There's nobody coming to BBN that I haven't either spoken to or met. So it's by invitation, but it's nice to have a chat with people to make sure it's right for them, because I don't want people to kind of come along thinking it's something, expecting something different, and then they're disappointed. So, we'll run through sort of what's expected of them and what they can expect from it. We'll have a chat and see, if there's any availability at whichever groups, etc. So yeah, website, have a chat with me, hook up with me on LinkedIn as well. So way to do that.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for your time, Brian. Great to talk to you.
Oh, not at all, Dean. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity. And you look better on screen than you do in real life.
You know what? I don't look good in any light, so don't worry about it. It's the sun coming through and it's shining, Thanks a lot, mate.
Much, Dean. Really enjoyed it.
Right, thank you.